Hey guys, John here. Happy Halloween to everybody. My gift to you is the Pluck of Death. Alright, if you like the patch, give the video a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. And now let's dive into this patch and see how it was created. So first things first, let's turn off some of our effects here. I have this getting sent to a reverb, so I'll mute that for now. And in the effects chain, we have a distortion, a filter, and a delay that we're all going to turn off. So the oscillator, so what's going on here? So oscillator 1, 2, and 3 are basically going to be the exact same waveform, and this was kind of created through additive synthesis. So we start off with the basic shape sine wave when we go here to this edit window, and this is kind of not necessarily a methodically thought out harmonic structure here. It's kind of just playing around with it and listening to see how much of a metallic sound you can kind of get from this here. So just kind of play around randomly, adding different harmonics at different volumes and so on, and then you'll eventually come to a metallic sound. And then that's kind of the core of this type of patch here, because we're going to be playing this here. Next up, the oscillator here, we can right-click this copy, and then we can paste these to these two other ones here. The second one is up 1 octave, and then the third one is up 2 octaves. So just the first oscillator is going to be sounding like this. Second oscillator. And then the third. Now, the unison here for the first one is 16 voices at 8% detune. It's a little bit more low end, so I wanted the detuning a little bit less, so it's a little more concentrated on the lower end spectrum of this sound. The second oscillator is also 16 voices at 30%, so a little bit more detuned. And then the very high oscillator, also 16 voices at 24% detuned. And there's also going to be inharmonic on all of these as well. So you click this menu here, select inharmonic, and then just kind of turn it to maybe around 60, 59% or so, give or take. And it kind of almost adds to that inharmonic, stretching, metallic-y sound. And you can kind of see the waveforms move a little bit. Very, very, very subtle. But anyway, moving on from here. So this first one is going to be sent to the first filter. The oscillator 2 is going to be sent to the first filter. And the oscillator 3 is getting sent to the first filter again. So oscillator 1, 2, and 3 are going to the same filter. So we're just using 1 here. And then we also have a sampler oscillator here that's on the jackhammer setting here. So these 3 buttons here are going to be on, and the level is about 0.199. And this is going just to the effects, because we kind of want that. If we turn these off here, this is kind of what the sound we're working with here. It just gives it kind of a more creepy type of vibe, I feel, as well. Now, there is some small pitch modulation to kind of make it a little bit detuned. So I have this LFO right here, 1/8 on the tempo, and then we're dragging this here to the oscillator 1 tune and the oscillator 3 tune. So the fine tuning here is going to be at 0.556 for oscillator number 1, and also on oscillator 3 at 0.583. Number 2 is left alone. I just added a little bit of fine tune right here at 13%. So that's basically the patch without any effects here. The filter is nothing insane. It's just the analog 12 dB at about 10K cutoff, and then there's going to be no resonance. So it's a little, it's just a filter just to kind of taper off the really high stuff. Now let's dive into the effects here. So we have a delay here, 1/8 for both sides, and this is going to be mid ping pong. The feedback is 39.57, and then the mix is going to be 11.83, the cutoff 60, and the spread 1. We can drop this down a little bit here as well if you don't want the echoes coming back to you at such high frequencies. Totally up to you, but I didn't really touch this spread knob here. The next filter here is going to be cutting the low end, because this patch can generate some low end that we don't really want. So it's going to be dirty. Yeah, 24 dB. The drive is 0. The mix is 100%. Key tracking is off. The cutoff is about 600 hertz, and the resonance is also down on this one here. And what is a, well, let's actually listen to these in series. So here's without the delay. Let's just listen to the pattern here itself. Right here. Now we have the delay on. And this kind of just opens it up a little bit. It's not too cluttered with delay, but it just gives it a little bit extra openness here. On the filter, let's check that out. The low end's cool, but it just doesn't really work too much for this patch, I didn't think. So that's totally up to you if you want to change that. And then the distortion really kind of kicks it up a notch. So for distortion, we're going to be using soft clip. The drive is 19.44 dB, and the mix is 0.169. But wait, there's more. So we have the external effects that we talked about before. Now this is getting turned on. Now we have a little bit of a reverb here. It's actually quite a large reverb. So we have 10-second decay. It's going to be quite big here. Usually I cut off the low end here, but there's not really much low end information in the sound to begin with. So I didn't really mess with this here as well. And then also there's some EQ on the reverb itself, in case you didn't know that, just to kind of cut off the low ends, just in case. It's kind of a backup EQ there. So with all that said and done, this is what it sounds like all together. All right, thank you guys so much for watching and sticking through all the way to the end. If you want to get this patch for free, there's a video description link in the video description. Yeah, and get it for free. Happy Halloween.